cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Customer, clientele. I was broke, that was last year. Getting money like a cashier. Get the money like a cashier. Benjamin, nothing less. I was broke, that was last year. Don't change 'em. I never switched up. Been down since day one. Stay social. People change them.
And let me get that scene next time.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Dope Black Thoughts Live. My name's Kevin.
And I am.
You're not here.
And I'm Larry Sr., just for the record.
I'm Stefania.
And I'm Hashim, also known as Hashay.
Mike Carter, aka the Paperboy. Good evening.
Man, the Justice Fairy. Good to see you, my brother. So look, we have a good episode for you today. Today we have a guest coming in virtually named Adam Fung, local Aurora citizen, friend of mine, personally. Unmute yourself, Adam.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Keeping busy.
Everything's good, man. I mean, everybody's, we're all in a good mood. This is going to be a good show, man. So talk to me. Tell the community a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Adam Fung. Just to reiterate, I am a father, union activist, working class citizen, and also a community activist. I'm always constantly trying to do good things for our community, whether it's through activism or even volunteering, because I believe in service over self. And also, I decided to do something crazy and run for office this year.
Some people might look. I know Adam like that. So you joined the National Guard. So some people might have said you already did something crazy.
Right.
But you got a few veterans on the call today. So,
Right.
what kind of community activism you've been getting into?
Well, lately it's helping with vaccine clinics, trying to get more people vaccinated so then we could, safely open up our economy. Although it's open right now, we still have a long ways to go as far as getting people vaccinated, and so we can slow the spread of this virus and get back and build back our city basically. And also there's going to be some drives that's going to be happening soon. And I hope everyone can join us in providing what the necessities like shoes for people who don't have shoes or food or whatever case may be. I think my friend Aaron Futrell is watching right now. He has a program going on, and it's called No One Walks Alone, I believe, where they're going to try to donate shoes to people who don't have shoes. So a lot of great things we can do as a community when we come together.
Okay, that's all good stuff. I mean, so look, I want to just open the floor for everybody to ask questions if they want to.
Yes, I got. I'm gonna put a little question on you. This is gonna set the tone, Mr. Adam. So, what, based on the vaccines you were just talking about, what would be a strategy for you to create trust in the Black community or the minority community in order for them to take up the vaccine more?
I think we have to have accessibility, because what happens is you're seeing more of the wealthy communities, if you call it that, wealthier people, neighborhoods, I would say, that are getting vaccinated and more marginalized communities, which is an absolute shame. We have to have everyone vaccinated so that we can open our community up again. And also, there's a lot of misinformation about vaccines. Recently, there are politicians asking people if there are trackers in the vaccines. And I was like, are you serious? Do we have to go to that route where we have to believe in all these conspiracy theories? And more and more people are believing this. And we need to have more facts instead of fiction in our communities right now. Especially when a lot of people are believing stuff from QAnon. And QAnon is very harmful to our communities all over, basically, because they just implement lies to everyone.
That was a great one, man. That's something big right there, right? That accessibility, you hit it first, right? because a lot of times for us, we tend to not want to do things unless we've seen what has happened and what are the results of it from those who have already taken it. So those are some great steps on that behalf.
On that, though, there's a history with our country and our community. So, sometimes we have to approach it at a different angle, especially for the people of color. There's a history from our government, and there's a true fear in our community. So it needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed properly. You can't just say, just take the vaccine. We need to have the science back it and put that out there for our people.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah. I was just gonna say too, because that's something we can all say about like I was saying, accessibility, right? That really gives us clarity, like because in our community, I mean, listen, myself, I'm not even gonna lie. Not only am I just socially programmed through the distrust of so much of the information out there for us, right? But also just in the urgency. Yes, I see my guy Paperboy want to drop.
Well, I think that's a better question is past accessibility, what are you going to do for people of color and communicating to them about the vaccine, not ones that can't get it, but ones that won't take it?
Yes.
That's a very good question, actually. So we need to find ways to find maybe possibly organizations that our communities would trust, especially when we have experts. Oftentimes we have scientists that are undermined, and especially during Trumpism, science was definitely undermined. So if I do get elected, I want to bring in scientists in the forefront. Oftentimes they are covered up, basically, where they're not there to talk to people. You see it happen with climate change, where scientists say, yes, climate change is negatively impacting our society, but yet you have people saying, oh, you should redact this, you should redact that, etc. So we need to bring our scientists and have them speak to our community and find organizations that our community do trust. And sadly, a lot of our community members do not trust our politicians, because they you have one side who says, yes, let's listen to the science, and the other side to say, let's listen to Trumpism or QAnon conspiracies, whatever the case may be. So we have to bring in the people who actually know, who have the credentials. People who pretend to be experts would lead everyone astray, and that's what causes misinformation.
Can I say something, Juan? You said one side was the QAnon, the Trumpism, and the other side was believing in science. The irony of that whole situation is that regardless of what side you're on, the trust of politicians are thin when it comes to the minority. You know what I mean? So whenever you speak of that specifically, it's like, wow, well, unfortunately, regardless of what you're saying, right, what they're saying, even on this side of the field, even if it is right, or even if it is wrong, there's no trust, right? So that was a great way that Paperboy, restructured that question as well.
And I want to throw something out there to the elephant in the room. You want to go ahead and announce your candidacy so we can just get that out there. I don't think you had an opportunity to really talk about it.
Yeah. So after seeing the turmoils that's happening through federal to state to local government, I decided to throw my hat in the ring for Aurora City Council at large. Believe it or not, I'm the least likely person to run for office. I don't have a prestigious job. I just have, although I'm dressed nice today, most of the time I'm wearing my t-shirts and my jeans, and I go to work at a grocery store. Actually, I'm just a working class citizen and wanting to promote a stronger collective bargaining power for workers and having more of a democratic voice for the workers. So when I saw that city government is now working for our people, our community, that's when I decided to jump in and decide to run, actually.
Hey, I'm gonna say this first off. Right now in this climate, it really showing your leadership, right? Because in a time where there's a lot of turbulence going on, there's really polarizing positions, rather which side you take in a nonpartisan race, right? You got to really figure out how you're going to maneuver in a proper way to collect the right votes. So, hey, kudos for that, man, because that's a big step either or.
Well, let me ask you this though. Congratulations. I'm glad to see that you decided to step out for a community. What sparked that? Where's your passion? What do you want to run on? What do you want to see changed in the Aurora City government?
I actually want to see city government work more for the people. Oftentimes we see elected officials working for big money, corporations, oil and gas. If you wave money at politicians that are elected, they'll do whatever you say. Basically, it's whoever writes the biggest checks, actually. For me, I will always remember where I came from through the times when working and living paycheck to paycheck and having to choose between whether to pay for food or car insurance or feeding myself or having my daughter be fed. So it's the struggles that I went through, and I understand the struggles. Oftentimes you have elected officials who don't understand the struggles or get elected and they realign themselves. And I promise that if I do get elected, I will realign myself to forget where I came from, which is the struggles that I went through during my time as right now I'm 36 years old, during the 36 years of my life. And also we need to do more things. We have to think about affordable housing. We have to think about the rise in white supremacy, and seeing what happened at the U.S. Capitol, where you have insurgents and white supremacists storming the Capitol. Things are just getting worse and worse. It's already worse, but we cannot regress. We have to progress, and we need a city government that looks more like our community.
Yep, I completely agree with you. And you spoke of, when you say worse and worse, we put in the black colloquialism of things are getting worser.
I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the stress emphasis on that. But you spoke of like big money. And speaking of big money, there was some news that came out yesterday or the day before this week about how much money has already been poured into the Aurora City Council race at the at-large. I believe it's the top dark money contributor or the top reindeer bringing in the most amount of dark money or big interest money. They brought in like $90,000. Then the second one was
someone says 120,000.
I'm sorry, say that again.
On the screen it says 120,000.
So collectively.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, over $120,000 collectively. But this makes it like this is exactly why my least favorite person, well, one of my, no, anyway, Mike Kaufman is brought in. Listen, I was walking that edge of profanity, but while the racist birther, Mike Kaufman was suing the city of Aurora, wasting tax dollars. I'm like, yeah, so you want this big money to come in here, but like, what is your plan on combating? That's a lot of money. That's more money than what they brought in at large last 4 years ago.
Yeah, Hashim, it's a shame. I think money in politics is absolutely gross. My vision is to have campaigns publicly financed, actually, so then we can get that money out of politics. Like I said, whoever writes the biggest checks, they're bought. Whether it's from the Koch brothers, Americans for Prosperity, or actually Americans for Prosperity is Koch brothers funneling money to Americans Prosperities. But if we need to get money out of politics, because they're not working for our communities if they're getting these big checks from these corporations. So that's why I think campaigns should be publicly funded. And plus, I hate fundraising. I admit it is not fun. I could be talking to someone about our community issues, and all of a sudden I say, "Can you give me $20, please?" I really don't like doing that, but it's part of this race that I jumped into. It's part of the territory. But like I said, campaigns should be publicly funded.
I completely agree with you on that. And as someone that has ran campaigns, we hate to hear our candidates say they hate asking for money because they're like, you better ask for money.
Yeah, right.
So, and I'm not speaking for anyone, but I'm sure your campaign manager would appreciate. Adam, tell the people how they can help your campaign proceed towards victory.
Yes.
Exactly. I totally agree, Hashim.
Well,
okay,
what's
so your website? What do you need? What does your campaign need?
We had our campaign kickoff April 3rd, actually. So it's almost been a little over a month since we had our campaign kickoff. Basically, we just need the boots on the ground to reach out to people, to reach out to our communities. But of course, right now we're going through a pandemic, so we don't know what we can do as far as saying canvassing or having in-person events right now. But if most of us get fully vaccinated, maybe we could have in-person events outdoors and not indoors, and with our mask and continuing to social distance and things like that. So we just need a lot of help, basically. So and I tell the people, if right now I know a lot of people are going through troubles during this time of a recession from this pandemic. So if you can chip in $5, $10 to our campaign, that would be fantastic, because every dollar amount counts. And also, we're running a grassroots campaign. I'm not taking any money from corporations, any developers, or oil and gas money.
Go ahead. That was my next question. How are you going to deal with both oil and gas and developers? Aurora is headed east. They're going to need and run into oil and gas already, and developers are the ones who are the ones actually building out east. What are you going to do, and what is your strategy going to be to either corral the developers to do the right thing and to slow the spread of oil and gas into Aurora City limits?
Right. So we saw city government, when was it? Almost 3 years ago, ignore the power that they have under SB 181, where where local governments have more control on where on fracking sites, basically. I think the future should not be fracking, because fracking puts methane into our atmosphere, and most of the fracking sites are up north in Aurora, and most of the kids and people of color live there, and they're breathing in this air, and that's not good. You know, we cannot let people breathe in this air, because methane is worse than CO2. The future, I truly believe the future of our on energy is renewable energy. I believe in solar energy, and we haven't done enough to go to that route, basically. But it's a step-by-step process, basically. Developers often come in and city government just let them do whatever they want and charge high prices to future homeowners, and in the end they don't become homeowners because of the high prices. So city government has to say, okay, developers, you need to have a part of land where we can have affordable housing, and whatever the case may be for our community, because you have people charging for the building of the house and the building of the land. That's expensive. So we cannot have developers just come in and say, we're going to do this, and then we're going to charge $500,000, whatever the case may be, where nobody can own a home in the future.
Well, can I ask this question? So in this developer situation, right, we're speaking about it. Currently, it's like a 2%. I think it's a 2% tax on that non-resident tax that comes that's for the state more specifically. How would you alter that, right? Because that would be something that you would have to really maneuver around to push to really create a more inward type income, right? And another thing, the employees, right? For a lot of times, these developers are from out of state, so they only have to pay that little 2% on that. And with that being said, the money flows out of Aurora, right? So now all this money that these developers who are out of state really come, and they's like only 2%. Of course, I'm gonna jump on that. How would you manage to restrict that? Are you in favor of some type of ordinance, city ordinance that can provide a raise or increase on that?
We definitely have to look more into it. I always believe in best practice contracting. So instead of employees being employed out of state, they should be employed within the state and also a livable wage. We have to continue to look into this with taxes and everything like that. It's very complicated. So we have to calculate what we can do to make sure that we do smart development and smart growth, and not be, lack of a better term, ignorant of what we can do about it.
Hey, I got a question for you, Adam. A few comments ago, Greg Marshall asked a question, and Greg Marshall is that's a friend of mine. He was my union steward when I worked for Cisco Foods in Denver. Big union activist, very active in the Teamsters. What do your union endorsements look like? Obviously, supporting Amazon, but like the PRO Act and whatnot. What kind of union involvement and activities are you planning to be involved with?
Kevin, do you mean endorsements or future activities?
Okay, so endorsements, yes, but okay, so like who all is endorsing you? Obviously, Working Families Party, but like talk about what your union support is looking like.
Well, the union support is I've recently spoke to the pipe fitters, but and they liked what I had to say because I have a union background. I used to be a union steward for a National Association of Letter Carriers. I was congressional carrier. I was a letter carrier congressional liaison for the State Association of Letter Carriers, and as far as what I did, we were able to get now Mayor, former Congressman Mike Kaufman, just to co-sponsor one of our House resolutions in Congress, which is House Resolution 993, which says Congress will do whatever it could to keep the Postal Service from being privatized and keep it a public institution. We really worked hard to get him on board to be on that House resolution. And other than that, I'm always, even though right now I'm not a union member anymore, I'm always there for a picket line because recently United here, Local 23, the United Airline workers, I picketed with them because United got all this federal bailout money and none of it went to the workers. That's a shame right there. That's where you see that greedy corporate interest right there. And of course we have to look into the future of work. How you see in the grocery stores, you see the lack of cashiers being replaced by kiosks, automation. We have to look at the future of unions because we see union membership declining right now. And that's why I do support the PRO Act. And recently I did speak at a rally to rally against the PRO Act. And then we have to get the Senator Sinema, Senator Warner, and Senator Kelly, the two senators who might not be backing or will be backing the PRO Act in the Senate right now.
All right, cool. Thanks.
Sorry. You had spoken earlier about how getting people involved with local politics and people think it doesn't work for them. I just want to say for everyone watching right now, this is it, right? City council is actually where you see your government working best for you. The closer the proximity of reach, the more it does and it works to affect your life. And I don't know, when you were saying the postal worker, like you got Kaufman to sign on to the resolution. Any people out there watching, like a resolution at the United States Senate and the House is the minimal that you can do. Also, follow the votes. The GOP has been attacking the United States Post Office for the longest, and it's crazy how they have to fund out their pension. I think it's over 70 plus years per new employee. The pension has to be funded. So me being at the ripe young age I am, there's no way I have 70 years left in my working career. So just the hurdle that you have to overcome. What sets you apart from others that are running in the race right now? Like why, I mean, I dig it. Like you're the working guy, but why should people vote for you as opposed to these other people that are coming in?
Well, one, I'm a very new candidate, and I am more. Like I said, I'm the least likely person to run for office. I had really had no intention, but I really saw the need for running for office. I think the one thing that I have is empathy because of the struggles I went through. I remember I lived in a small town where it was 88% white, and it was tough for me because I didn't look like everyone else. I looked different. And I was made fun of for my features, even the color of my hair. And I remember walking, my parents had a small business, and I remember walking into the bathroom of my parents' small business, and they wrote, kill the Chinese on the wall, only it didn't say Chinese, it used a racial slur.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw the rise in hate right now, those feelings came back right now. And Aurora is a very diverse city. We cannot regress. We need to progress, and we need a city council that actually looks like Aurora. So far, I haven't seen any. I haven't seen an Asian being in city council. So I might be the first, or if the other candidate.
Nope. You.
Yeah, but yeah. That's the thing right there. All of them are great candidates. I have the ones that I support there, but not there's not all of them. But let me rephrase
it. Let me just brief you right quick. So I tend to always be the one to push an envelope. I don't use all parts of my filter, so pay me no minds. I'm doing the silent commentary on the side. But there are two candidates that are on the ballot that get my vote, you and John, and that's a wrap. And I encourage everyone else to vote that way too. That's me. Those are my thoughts, my opinion, but everyone else is still welcome to come on the show. Convince me otherwise that you deserve my vote over these two candidates that actually represent my interests, over these two candidates that actually are people powered and not corporation powered. And you're talking, I was thinking, I was holding my tongue on it or whatever, but, these other folks with these high dollar checks that they're receiving in from their donors, I mean, really, they are actually nothing more, and this is no shame on sex workers, but they're high-priced hookers sitting on city council because they bend to whoever makes it rain the most in their funding.
And that's very true because we need to get money out of politics. I think it's a shame that you have people who can write these big checks. If you look at the report right now, you see one of the candidates having $1,000 donations. It's like, wow, how do these people write? My pen would explode if I ever wrote a donation like that. So it is crazy. And looking at them, I'm like, wow, it's like we're way behind from what they are. But like I said, we are running a grassroots campaign. We are seeking individual donations, and most of the donations that we received are from our community, and that's the people that we represent.
Right.
Okay, so I want to take you back a little bit. You mentioned being part of a government that is representative of the community that it's in. And you being of Asian descent, and you're on a show with all these beautiful colored people, colorful people, right? Watch my mouth, right? Hashim, don't go there. But anyway, I want to talk to you about policing in Aurora and the relationships that we need to have to see a peaceful community. We all want peace. We all want to know that we are, on the right course. We've had a lot of volatile summers. We have another summer coming up where a lot of people don't feel like there's been any change.
Mm-hmm.
There's been an increase. Now we have to worry about not only Black policing over Black people, but now the Asian crimes that are going on. So talk to us about how you feel about how our policing is in this community. I know that there are other states that are passing laws about not being able to protest and giving immunity to those who use their cars to hit protesters. Talk to us a little bit about how you feel about that and what you think that should happen.
I caught. I think I lost the last part of the question, Stefania.
Yeah.
But there's some type of echo. But so our police needs to be changed drastically. I actually believe in divestment. I think we have spent too much on policing. Instead, we should relocate those funds to more programs where we can help our community, safety programs. I know the Baltimore City Council, their funding for the police was $550 million. They took $22 million out of it and invested in Black businesses. They invested in recreational centers, and they even invested it in trauma centers so that people who went through trauma can go to a place and seek help. Actually, for too long, we have always spent too much on defense. We see it in the Bill Clinton administration, where he decided to be tough on crime. So he took money out of education, not just him. It was all these politicians. He took money from education, took money from public housing, so then they can crack down on the war on drugs, and you see this uptake in mass incarcerations because of that. And that's another problem too, is that we have a problem with mass incarceration. And I recently did release a statement that I support SB 62, which would be the first step to addressing mass incarcerations. So I believe we should do divestments and actually invest in the community and find the root causes in the problems in our community instead of using punitive actions.
Yes.
So when you talk about the funding, and that for some reason ruffles a lot of people's feathers, and when you talk about defund or refund or any type of thing, talk about messing with the money of the police, then you have people your typical social media racists that are like, well, the next time you're in trouble, call a thug. Well, that's what 911 reaches me to. But nonetheless, when I think about the funding, I'm like, okay, cool. How much money have these civil settlements and lawsuits cost the city of Aurora, right? By reckless cop behavior. How much money is getting ready, because they haven't paid out for the one where the investigation showed that there was no legal cause to stop the murder that the Aurora police officers have committed. So so when I say that, I'm like, I want people to always think about hey, the police are costing money, not just to employ, but they're also costing money from the settlements, not just costing money to militarize, they're also costing money from the awardings of lawsuits.
And negligence.
And that's horrible. What are your thoughts on having these type of fundings? I'm making sure that police officers carry their own insurance, but also having these big awards come out of the police budget or come out of their pension fund.
So yeah, I think rewarding police with these funds I don't think that's proper actually. And oftentimes you have the police union. That's probably the union that I do not support actually. Although I am for unions, police unions are more about power. They're not about actually helping the community. And you see how the police union has a lot of say on the hirings and firings of police. And you still see the police officers who were involved in the murder of Elijah McClain still at large right now. And that's a shame right there. And all this funding, we have to do what's proper. We cannot do what is unethical in our terms actually. So we have to be smart about it and actually think about accountability. Also, that the fact that there is no accountability right now, and we see it day in and day out right now.
Qualified immunity.
Sure. That's a big one right there. I'm gonna let Omar jump in, but Croy just hit it on the head. Aaron Futrell is dropping some hot fire too, talking about the new Jim Crow can't be defeated.
Yeah.
3 council members are openly bigoted and racist. But right here, they get fired for excessive force and get rehired in the next town.
Mm-hmm.
So
who are the 3 council members that are openly bigoted and racist?
Aaron, calling you out.
Or anybody.
Hashim, if you want to name names,
Sure.
I guess. I mean,
Thank you. I would guess based upon factual evidence. Marsha Burnson, Dave Gruber, and I'm lost. Would it be Francois or Eric or Curtis? Excuse me.
There's
or Mike Kaufman. Is he that? Is he that one?
Might be Mike.
The opinions.
Right. So I think 3 is a little underrepresentative, but I know Marsha's leading that. I'm sure. You know, she went to Alabama in the 70s, and her comments lead me to believe that she got one of them old mutilated bed sheets in the closet just waiting to put on once again.
Okay.
I see.
Oh, Mom, let you jump in, man.
I don't even know how to follow that, but that's my partner, Hashim.
There'll be some people in Marsha's family that probably follow with some tiki torches. Maybe Gruber has one that he would follow with the tiki torch as well.
Adam, good to meet you. Good to meet you.
Hi, Omar.
Welcome
How's it going?
Welcome to Dope Black Thought. Congratulations on your campaign. I'm gonna change the topic just a little bit. Just a little bit. You know, one of the things that, and you may have talked about this because I've been driving, as you can see, I'm in my car and I wanted to hop on. We have a huge problem with our unhoused community. I'm going to say the unhoused community don't have a problem. How we address our unhoused community is the problem. Mm-hmm. But I am seeing a lot more tents pop up in the city of Aurora as Denver become more aggressive in regards to how they're addressing our unhoused residents. What are your thoughts about some of the things the city can do to address in a humane way and in a way with decency to address our unhoused residents that live in the city of Aurora?
Yes, thank you for that question, Omar. So we've seen the mayor wrongfully accuse the homeless as drug addicts and lazy, and that's far from the truth. There are dimensions to this. Some of the homeless may have been wrongfully incarcerated and weren't convicted of a crime, and when they come out, they get discriminated because they have a criminal, a background in jail, and so they cannot find employment. They get discriminated from housing because they were in jail, etc. And then not only that, there's also people who are fleeing domestic violence. They leave the home and they have nowhere else to go, and they couldn't find the assistance that they need to find shelter. So we have to be smart about it and think of long-term goals and unlike Mayor Kaufman, I don't think homelessness is a result of drugs or being lazy. There's also unemployment and stagnant wages. When the wages are stagnant and you cannot afford to have a home or afford a home, then most of the time they'll be looking at a shelter or sleeping on the street. I've met someone who works at Walmart with just making $11 an hour, and he can't afford a place to live. Rent is $1,400 approximately, even more than that. So then you're making $11. That's less than $1,600. Most of that paycheck is gone. So that's why I am for a living wage. We have to have a living wage for our workers so then they could have decent living. And not only that, we have to look for ways we can house our homelessness. So with homelessness, we can take them and have a home for them, like the permanent housing solution, and then have programs for and slowly try to bring that person back from the struggle, actually. And shelters the shelters are not the safest place, I hate to say. And sometimes homelessness people would go to a shelter and they don't feel safe, or some of the people who are working there are very hostile to them. So they're discouraged from going to homeless shelters. And like I said, they don't feel safe. So we have to think of expanding on public housing. I would say social housing, actually, where it's more affordable. But with housing first, you should, I think we should expand on that too, because we can have more time for that person to get their feet on the ground, and not just have 1 month to say, okay, you got 1 month to try to find a job, you got 1 month to get sober, whatever the case may be. It should be the person should be given more time, actually. So we can do a lot of things, actually, if we have the right people in city council and not just have narrow-mindedness in our city government.
I want to follow up with that very quickly. I hear your concerns about shelters, but I also got to say I went to go visit some of those shelters, and some of those individuals do a lot of great work to keep people warm, keep them fed, and get them job opportunities. I also like the work that's being done at Providence at the Heights, Ready to Work, and they're both in the city of Aurora, great models of if we could duplicate them on how to deal with the unhoused. Moving forward, the city faces a $20 million deficit a year when it comes to roads and maintenance. Roads gonna be looking bad. We had like a grade level C on our way to a D in the city of Aurora. Yeah. And people say the only way to get it done is metro districts. I don't agree with that. What are your thoughts about that?
So I think and Juan Marcano is advocating for this already, and I think we should have a public bank. If we have a public bank that actually invests in our communities, whether it's our infrastructure or our education, that can do a lot for us. And that's all I got, basically. I think if we have a public bank in Aurora, we could improve our community. And there are go ahead. Okay.
Who was that?
No, I think it was just a glitch. But if you wanted to go ahead and finish, Adam, or
okay, and like I said, there's a lot of things we could do, because right now we see the increase of potholes. We just have crumbling infrastructure, and we're not investing in our community. There's no more public investment anymore.
It's funny you were talking about potholes. I remember growing up, like, I'm afraid of Denver. Aurora's going to become like Denver, with being these potholes, being like some type of video game driving derby. But growing up, Aurora used to give you $30 per pothole you called in to fill the pothole. I remember that as a kid, because that was a way I was trying to make some money, because my mom didn't give allowance. But these metro districts, I feel, are complete trash. And I hate driving through new development, because I think they always design, like, we leave the roads up to the developer, like however they want to design the infrastructure. That's on them. They do the bare minimal, and they pass a high cost over to the metro districts. So if I had my Cadillac plan, or I had my wish list, I would want the developers to pay their fair share and not put this money back on the metro district. I would love for the new road infrastructures to be wide enough for at least two-way traffic on both, two-lane traffic, both directions to occur, and that turns and the proper lighting and the proper trafficking is allowed there. Because as we know, if they keep wanting us to grow, let's not create the traffic and the congestion that happens there. Also, I think it's time that employers start to pay their fair share as it relates to employment taxes. If my memory serves me correctly, it hasn't been raised since the 80s or the early 90s on what employers pay their taxes or the fees per worker in the city. And when I served on this the Citizens Budget Advisory Committee, it was always a fear of, well, if we do that, people don't want to come. So what? Right? It's time that some suffering happens, and I'm so damn sick of the poor people, the less rich. And by poor, let me be clear, I'm poor. I mean those that make under $250,000 a year. Yes, you are poor. Deal with it. Suck it up. You just might be the working poor, but you're part of the poor. I'm tired of those people voting outside of their interest. Like, for the life of me, I cannot grasp why these non-1% Republicans, and I know that this is a nonpartisan race on paper, but I'm tired of them voting against their interests and voting for big money. It's like, damn, for once, let's pause on, let's not even bring abortion rights into this at the city council race, right? Because like they really have no say-so on that. So like, let that not guide your vote. Your common interests. You want good streets? Let that be your vote. You want better services of the city? Let that be your vote. If you're tired of rich people continuing to be welfare people, like welfare mentality and welfare behavior, let's vote our interests. And those that have brought in this $90,000 and $60,000 with this last reporting cycle, I guarantee these are the candidates that are not representing your interests. So why in the world would you vote for them? I just get so lost on that.
Yeah. Yep. Got to vote your interest.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, it's very tough, but it's more of a social science thing, because some people believe in this thing of competition right here, or you have to pick yourself off your bootstraps. But when you don't have that equal opportunity, how can you pick yourself off your bootstraps? Actually, say for instance, if you don't have a living wage, how do you think you're going to have a home? You can't afford an apartment, and when you pay rent for an apartment and you're not eligible for a mortgage, you won't be a home. Same thing with healthcare. I believe we should have Medicare for all, but some people believe, okay, some people don't deserve it. Some people, the neighbor that I don't like should not deserve Medicare for all. Medicare because I don't like him, so it's that extreme individualism, Hashim, and that's been a problem in our culture.
And let's be honest, racism is a part of why people are against Medicare for all as well. They don't want to see those black and brown people, those welfare queens and kings, just mooching off of the system, and they're just running to the emergency room whenever they want to, right? Call me crazy. I happen to be one of those poor kids that just ran to the emergency room, but I couldn't actually run to the emergency room because it cost too much back in the days. Brian Lindstrom made a couple comments there. Low information elections and the illusion of meritocracy. Now, when people see that meritocracy is not the way America works, it makes people disillusioned. People, as another thing he said was low information elections. People are not paying attention and learning about the candidates to find out if they vote, if they actually apply to your interests. So if I'm your standard conservative or standard libertarian, I may not even know if you're going to vote in line with me. I'm just going to look at who says you're on my side. Do you have an R next to your name, even if it's not on this ballot? How do you overcome voter apathy? People that just don't get involved. I don't even get into all that. As some of my friends from Cisco, like Greg, not Greg, but other friends from Cisco, they would say, I don't worry about that as long as my check doesn't bounce. Right?
Yep.
How do you overcome that barrier?
So I believe voting is very important. And believe it or not, I was like that, where I didn't want to get into politics. But once it started affecting me, that's when it's like, okay, I should probably get involved. A lot of times when you start to see something affecting you, especially during the last 4 years under Donald Trump, we see the effects. When we're not doing anything to help combat this pandemic, we saw the rise in deaths and the rise in cases and things like that. So we have to educate our voters, saying that voting does matter, because not only that, when you're voting, you're hiring the people in city government. The elected officials work for the community, and we often forget. If you're not voting, you're not hiring the person that's gonna work for your interests. And not only that, we have to expand on accessibility on voting, because a lot of people are discouraged from voting, and we have to make sure that they have. I believe election days should be holidays, where everybody can have a chance to go vote in person. But of course, in Colorado, you can vote by mail, actually. So if there's any way I can expand on voting in city government, I definitely will do that. Actually, it's all about educating and reaching out to your voters and saying that if you don't vote, you lost that chance to hire that person that you want in your city government.
Thank you, Adam.
And I know that we've talked about, and I've seen in the comments, increase the minimum wage to a living wage, but that is easily knocked out of alignment when people can't afford, like, what is a living wage, right? It's one of those moving things, one of those things that is kind of vague. But if we don't have something where renters can get a solid footing to begin to climb this ladder up out of debt, like rent control might be a way on that. When I sit on this citizen budget advisory committees, we had a person on the committee and she always pushed, we need more $1 million homes in Aurora. And I'm like, well, who in the world, and I didn't want to say world, who in the world is working these jobs where they can afford $1 million home, period, right? Like, you have people that can't even afford a rent from a studio apartment. So, and Aurora used to be that place to go to. So I feel that whatever control city council has over developers, like, I don't think any more contracts should be awarded to anyone that is not doing a 70-30 split. For, I almost want to say 50-50. I really almost want to say 50-50 when I look at what's going on in Aurora. But unless we're really willing to take some strong measurements to combat the issue, all of it is lip service in the day, and we do incremental work going forward, that we're coming out of it, but in actuality, we're taking one step forward and 2 steps back.
And Aurora has a lot of land. There should be something that can be done to dedicate a certain plot of land to tiny homes. And I saw Topaz McBride mentioned that their church is dedicating part of their parking lot to tiny homes. But we have a lot of land. Obviously, the homeless are using parts of the land that they are on right now for their tents, dedicating certain plots for tiny homes, row houses, or something like that can give people an opportunity to use that. I know we have affordable housing in Denver. I know we have programs. It's small. I know a small amount of affordable houses in Denver, and the list is long for people to get on them, because you can't qualify to even rent a home these days. They want 3 times the rent, and a livable wage is not going to help anybody qualify for those rental applications. So Aurora dedicating we have so much land. Aurora dedicating a piece of land to tiny homes, row houses, to house people until they can get a foot up is something that absolutely needs to happen.
Well, and briefly, and this is for Adam, but it's based off of Sister Gallegos and Hashim. What if you have a developer build whatever number you want to call it, 70-30, 80-20? The developers are building on the edge of Aurora. Mr. Fung, are you going to be able to, 1, push back against these developers to make them pay their share, and 2, increase the reality that there's no public transportation past E470?
Yeah.
Are you willing to either, I don't want to say raise the taxes, but find the funds to increase public transportation out east, and have that conversation with developers about, okay, you're going to build this, whatever, this 20%, but it's going to be in Kansas. How do you get the people who want the affordable housing to where they need to work?
So, yeah, great question, Michael. So we definitely need better public transportation, and I'm willing to say yes, we can find funds to where we could have public transportation accessibility to people who do not have it. I know a lot of people who don't have their own vehicles. Even the cost of vehicles has gone up too, actually, and so we have to do a test and find a way where we could have a rail line, and I was talking to my friend Aaron Futrell about this, and if we don't have public transportation, people will have a hard time going from place to place. Excuse me. So, and also with developers, I am willing to talk to them. I'm willing to talk to them and say, you really shouldn't be just coming in and saying, I'm going to take over and we're going to do whatever the heck we want. I would say, you have to be able to have a part where there's affordable housing or social housing to house the people who can't afford that $1,400 apartment, who cannot buy a new home, etc. So I am willing to say yes. I will talk to them, and I won't give in. I say because back then when I was a union steward, I always had to go neck and neck with management, and I always said it's either this or that. But at the same time, there is somewhat of a negotiation. Yes, I'm not that hard-headed, but we have to be smart about it. So.
You muted for your follow-up.
Real quick, I apologize. About the developers paying for the infrastructure, I kind of saw that comment, and what I would say is because of the metro districts, because that service and that infrastructure is hidden, the true cost of a home is not actually seen until you actually buy it and then start having to pay the taxes on not just the house, but all of a sudden you're in a metro district you didn't even know about. And eventually that infrastructure, that the agreement we had with the developer, that infrastructure he created, well, at a certain point, the city of Aurora is going to have to start paying for the maintenance of that infrastructure. So we never see the true cost of a home, either as a citizen or as a buyer.
Well, keep in mind that would mean probably an increase in your taxes.
It would be, and sometimes we have to. And I'm not a homeowner, right? So beat up on me for saying this, but sometimes we have to start increasing taxes. We just have to. But I don't feel that the burden should be placed on the little guy. I think that corporations really need to start paying their fair share and get off of welfare. And that's one of those things. And maybe Aurora should be the city where we provide true disclosure of what a home is going to cost.
And I completely agree with that assessment. So yes, I believe we should tax the wealthier because they're not paying their share of taxes, which would bring in public. We have lost public investment, over the years. So
they run it through a couple.
Well, hey, look, we got to run a tight ship, man. We got 2 more minutes. Our hour is about up. So, and this is a really good comment. Aaron Futrell's been in here dropping hot fire for real. So I just want to salute to him. I've been on a couple meetings with him with CPA and whatnot, but I also serve on the Citizens Budget Accountability or Advisory Committee. And one of the things they talked about is if the city wasn't, even if something isn't big enough to impact the budget as a budget priority right now, over a 10-year span, if you keep on making mistakes, like having to repair completely destroyed infrastructure instead of keeping it up to par, or taking care of larger problems because you kept pushing it back, over a 10-year period, it could equal up to something that is totally devastating a larger need in the community. So we have to be fully responsible. And it's kind of weird, having formerly a really fiscally conservative or, just a conservative city council that we're kind of being put into this place where we choose living wages versus housing versus being able to keep a job and drive to it. So I like the idea of being proactive, saying if we need to increase the taxes, then that's something we may need to do it responsibly, look for affordable housing now. But I want to give you an opportunity to drop a dope black thought on this, or at least a dope thought, before we shut down the episode.
But before he does, I just want to give acknowledgement that we are in Asian American Pacific Islander Awareness Month. So I want to put that out there. And I also want to put out there that there's also acknowledgement that there has been an increase in Asian hate crimes or hate crimes against the Asian community. I don't want to say Asian hate crimes. It's not like Asians have increased their crime rate. Don't run off with that narrative. But I want to just acknowledge those two things before we transition over to Aaron. And also, I'm sorry, Futrell has stated that there has never been Asian representation on the board, on the city council. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So, good luck.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Off to
Appreciate
you, Adam,
it.
for your dope black thought.
Yeah.
Give us a final thought.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, we do have to combat this hate, and we saw that people get scapegoat for certain things that go wrong right now, especially during this pandemic. The Asian communities are being scapegoat right now. But I want to leave a thought here, and I believe that we can make positive changes. And Dr. Martin Luther King said this. He said, we have to be the hammer of the new society, then the anvil molded of the old.
Here's your dope black thought.
There you go. I appreciate you, man. It's good to see that you're running. We had a bunch of good questions. I think you were bringing some good solutions, man. I appreciate you, and everybody, thanks for tuning in. With that,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Dope Black Thoughts out.
Yeah. D-D-I-C-T-E-G. What is love? It's a drug. Let it rotate, then hit back in it. Calling me an Uber just to hit back in it. Hit the cash out like pay, I send it. Is it really worth the wait? I don't get it.